Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
As obscure as Little Nemo and as notable as Coraline. This is once again Double Feature. My name is Eric, and I'm here today with film enthusiast Michael Kester.
Hey, I'm really enthusiastic about films. It's good to be here.
So we've got to do a show today, and we're just going to keep trying Double Feature experiments because we get to fucking do one of these every week, and why not try some more experiments?
Today we're doing people getting massacred in the jungle, I guess.
Yeah, all right.
Would be that's one. Another would be another kind of exploitation pairing that we haven't touched on.
Some more exploitation films, two that we somehow haven't covered yet. And those very movies are, of course, Cannibal Holocaust and The Big Birdcage. All right, man, so here's what's going on. We have to do it. Cannibal Holocaust is hard. And I forgot it was hard, and I didn't tell anybody. After we did the show last week, I actually watched Cannibal Holocaust again, and then one more time today.
Yeah.
So I've now officially seen it more times than I will ever.
Yeah.
That's the maximum number I've seen. When I'm on my deathbed and you ask me how many times I've seen Cannibal Holocaust, hopefully my answer will be the same as it is today.
Yeah.
But for some fucking bizarre, perverse reason, I'll probably have to watch it again. It's a hard film. Hard film to watch. You might notice, though, I seem to be doing all right today.
Yeah, you're doing better.
So part of today's experiment is we got some more hard films to cover. We got to make people watch them. We don't really know how to not bum everybody out. And so that's been the constant experiment that we've been, an answer we've been trying to get to the bottom of. And so, I mean, all right, we can't just do Amelie again to cheer everybody up. Not that that even fucking worked last time.
Right.
Anyways, maybe we could change the order or whatever, but we can't always go, Cannibal Holocaust and Mean Girls, right? That doesn't always work. So today we want to talk about exploitation films. Rather than just throwing something nice in to make everybody feel better, we want to pair up two films that, just fucking suck it up and talk about the two films. A show that would normally work. So we're left with a question then. We have a toss-up. We have to see the two films.
Yep.
If we do the nice one first, then at least you can enjoy the nice one while you're still able to do that. And you're left with an awful feeling at the end.
Right. Tried that. Failed.
Yeah. And so you feel like we gave you that awful feeling, and that sucks. And then you come listen to the show, and you and I are kind of bummed out, or at least I am.
You
I
are.
seem to be. Although Cannibal Holocaust fucked with you a little bit more today.
Yeah, it got me.
It's because I had some preparation, I think. Although we'll get to that. That didn't help me at all. And so then we have the opposite, where we could do the awful film first, and maybe it'll ruin the happy film, which is possible. But if we can somehow get over the hard film, we can let the happy one cheer us up. And so we're experimenting with this new way this time, and I think we have an aid to help people.
Yeah, we do.
So before I get to that, I haven't decided yet. We're going to do this spontaneously. If I'm going to tell people about that ahead of time or make them listen to the Cannibal Holocaust segment first. There's going to be spoilers. We're going to spoil both Cannibal Holocaust and The Big Birdcage. Having said that, I don't know if there's a lot of spoiling going on here.
No. It's pretty much look at the fucking
I think you're fine.
Cover, poster, whatever the hell you look at.
That's it. Yeah, in fact, there's pivotal scenes on both posters, on both covers. But if you do want to skip one or the other, maybe the Cannibal Holocaust conversation's dragging you down, which, I mean, I'm ready to have a fun time with that, so I don't know why that would. But if it does, you can skip over The Big Birdcage, and if you haven't seen that yet and you want to see some other women in prison stuff first, go ahead and skip to the end. We'll tell you what we're doing next time. I'm going to save the nice trick. I don't want to talk about it yet. I want to get into the mood of Cannibal Holocaust. Then we'll talk about the hard film aid, the difficult to watch film aid that we're developing, sort of. So Cannibal Holocaust, good old 1980s exploitation. What kind of exploitation would you call this?
Oh, I would call it probably cannibal exploitation would be the first one that would come to mind.
That's fair. That's fair.
Audience exploitation would be the second one.
Some good old Italian audience cannibalized exploitation. This is in true Italian fashion, man. This thing is, half the crew is Italian and half is Colombian.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always amazed that they can work around that language barrier.
Yeah.
Just to kind of prepare for the show. I'm watching all these interviews with the director. I can barely pronounce his name. I can't understand a fucking word he's saying at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the only stuff I could ever understand is when he's speaking with someone else and I had to use context clues to figure it out. And, you look up interviews and stuff, and unless there's a transcription, you can't just get subtitles on the thing. So they're able to get around a language barrier that I can't even understand when they're speaking English. Beautiful. So the star of this movie is Robert Kerman, who was in Debbie Does Dallas.
Okay.
I mean, the guy, he was in the unrelated Cannibal Ferox, another kind of cannibal exploitation film. Italian, I think, as well.
Probably.
And just a ton of porn films. I mean, maybe hundreds.
Wow.
I don't know his career as extensively as I probably
I don't know.
should have
See, the
written
thing
down here.
about porn is I don't know if 100 is like par for the course. Or if
Right.
100 is a lot. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. Think about it in the context of how often you have sex, because we're not going to be able to talk about sex for the rest of this segment of the show.
Yeah, we might as well.
So let's do it
might
now.
as well do it now.
Thinking about it in the context of how often you had sex, 100 films is once every 3 days.
Well, the robot says 4 times a week.
That's true. You're not talking about that. What's the short films that...
Fucking Machines?
That's the one.
I was talking about Colossus, but Fucking Machines probably says more than 4 times. If you live in the kink.com building, then we've already talked about sex more than we're allowed in Cannibal Holocaust. So I'm afraid I have to cut that off here.
Don't say that.
Oh, this is going to get difficult. So I'm going to go with Ruggero Deodato
All
for
right.
the pronunciation. And I've
Okay.
officially said it once. And now when I just call him the director guy, you'll know who I'm talking about. He was inspired by Mondo Carne and also by news violence, although he doesn't always cop to that.
All
He's
right.
inspired by some news stuff, some media stuff. Have you seen Mondo Carne?
No, I haven't. I've seen a few of the cannibal movies. I saw Mountain of the Cannibal God, which is
Sure.
gross. And I mean, they're all gross.
Right.
But
That's the objective, I think.
yeah, I haven't seen Mondo Cane.
Mondo Cane is less of the cannibal stuff and more of the found footage kind of side of things. It reports to be a shocking documentary. And in actuality, most of it was staged or kind of set up. But something that led to be a precursor to Cannibal Holocaust, which in turn inspired a plethora of other films we'll talk about. I think there are, I mentioned that I watched this earlier this week. My idea was I'll see it, it'll get me prepared. And while Cannibal Holocaust, watching it today in studio, had less of an impact because I watched it 5 days ago or whatever,
Right.
it still was just as hard to watch as I was seeing it.
Yeah, I believe
I
that.
think this is one of the films, one of the very few films that not only is the impact not diminished, it somehow gets more fucking difficult every time. Why is that?
I think it's because once you know what's going to happen, you keep telling yourself it's not that bad. I'm sure
not
I
that
can
bad.
get
It's not that
through
bad.
it. It's not going to take that
Right.
long. They don't actually show them destroying the body of the turtle for
Yeah.
more than 30 seconds?
Right.
And then it happens and it is that bad. You can't get through it and it takes a long time.
I don't know how you do it because as we're watching it, I just scream. I'm just, oh my God, there's turtle. Look at the inside. Why are they doing that to the turtle? I just have to yell at the movie. And that's the only way I have to externalize that. And you just kind of, I just see you sort of curl up a little
Yeah.
bit and you're just taking it. You're just
Yep.
dealing with it. You're
You gotta-
fuck, I'm just watching this turtle. And we could both not watch it. We could both just
Yeah.
pretend we got to write something
Girl
down
vision.
or there's right. We could get the chick hands going up, but we have to watch it. And no, we don't. No, that was my entire point is we don't have to watch it, but we do. We do it anyways. So the production of this is pretty amazing. There's a lot about Cannibal Holocaust that's fucking amazing. But it was shot in the Amazon.
Okay.
But also shot in Rome, New York, some stuff in New Jersey, whether it's interiors or exteriors.
New Jersey,
they're doing
Amazon, in and out,
Well,
whatever.
I mean, for the stuff they're shooting, that's obviously outside the jungle.
Right.
So it was all really handheld because they didn't have. I mean, they're shooting it from the shoulder. They didn't really have Steadicams because that stuff didn't exist until mid 1970s. I think Rocky was the one that really popularized that. So of course they didn't have anything. So they're using 35 millimeter stuff, and they're for the for the glorified footage, not for the found footage.
Right.
I think the found footage is all 16 millimeter.
That's what it looks like.
Or at least, because it all looks similar. And I know some of it was 16 millimeter. So I just assumed the whole thing is. But, without being there, you have no idea. But the footage of the first group with the 4 people with the girl, that would be the 16 millimeter stuff. Or at least some of that would be the 16 millimeter stuff. And the way that they shot it is they went in and they had no storyboards. They didn't even have a fucking shot list. At bare minimum, you put together a shot list so you know where you need to go and what you need to cover, and then you just put it together later. That's the lazy way. They didn't even do that. They had a rough idea of kind of what they wanted to accomplish in a day, and then they just sort of went out and did it. They acted out these scenes and basically just shot what felt right. I mean, they're barely even holding on to a script. The director was saying that he read the script one time and then just kind of went and did the thing from there. He picked it up from Rossellini, who basically, he said, taught him everything about filmmaking. And that was kind of the style. Just fucking go out and do it. And we feel that a lot more with the 4 kids who are going out, the 4 filmmakers, than our professional porn actor who's, going out and doing a more serious job. But man, these 4 fucking documentarians, if you can even call them that, filmmakers, the people depicted in this movie,
the jungle creatures
that get the ones that actually get cannibalized.
That's what I'm talking about.
They are the real cannibals after all. On Stuck, we said that Mina Savari's character was the worst human being in double feature history. That's no longer true. It's these 4 people. All of them are pretty bad.
Oh yeah, they're all terrible. I
think the girl happens to, by chance, be not as bad because the situations don't arise where she can be. It's because
she doesn't have a cock.
Right, that's it. That by happenstance. Doesn't have a penis, not as bad as the other people in the film. But they're all pretty despicable human beings.
Oh, terrible.
All the men rape the Yanomamo girl that they find. And for no reason. They're just raping her. They're filming it. The filming it is, it's insult to injury at that point. Why even do that? And she's protesting. She's protesting at least using the excuse that, hey, we're going to run out of footage here.
That's the only protest. She doesn't say even once, even something like, turn this off, this is illegal.
Right.
It's like she doesn't realize what they're doing is even wrong, outside of the fact that it doesn't make sense in context of their film project.
Of the piece they're putting together, yeah. So, they all pay for it. They're raped or, mutilated. Genital inclusive mutilation, and then cannibalized.
Not the whole time. It's not included the whole time.
Right. And then cannibalized on screen. The whole thing, it takes place on screen. You fucking see the mutilation. You see the whole thing. And it's uncomfortable to watch. I think part of why that holds up, or I at least think it holds up, the 40-year-old film we're talking about, the special effects, it's all pork parts.
Yeah.
The animal stuff we mentioned is all actual animal violence. It's actual animals that they killed and slaughtered on. You're watching an animal snuff film.
Uh-huh.
And for the people, they're using pork parts and fucking animal entrails. And
right, sure.
That's why it looks like internal organs.
It's because it is.
Yeah, and it's kind of gross.
It's very gross.
And just amidst that, because everything else looks real, the rape just feels pretty real and pretty fucking awful.
The thing about the film that always gets me is that they actually kill the animals. Now, I'm not saying that what gets me is the killing of the animals, but that they establish this baseline of, we are going to slaughter animals for real. They're actually doing this.
Sure.
And so everything else that happens, you have to go one eye closed and say, are they actually doing some of this? Once you know they'll go so far as to stab a muskrat through the eye,
right?
How much further, where does the line get drawn?
The line between animal and people?
Sure.
I would hope that the line is right after animal, but right before people.
But I'm saying in the context of the film.
Absolutely.
While you're watching the film, the reality kind of sets in that all of this is just as graphic as killing the animals. It's just as real, because the baseline that you establish is reality.
Right.
And everything after that, you don't get a chance to detract from reality because it's all given to you as reality.
Yeah, this gets back to that Mondo Kane thing. I talk to people all the time. I'm constantly having debates with people over whether or not the cannibalism in Cannibal Holocaust is real. And they say, well, the cannibalism isn't, but the rape is. Or the rape isn't, but the animals are. And, so that's something that really interests me to figure out, to get to the bottom of the truth here. And apparently it interests the authorities as well, because the filmmakers were definitely taken to court over this shit.
Yeah, probably rightly so.
So, I mean, the reason they were taken to court was fallacious. It was over making a snuff film, which they didn't do. But they had an agreement with the actors that the actors wouldn't take work for, I think it was an entire year after Cannibal Holocaust. They would kind of disappear. They'd go into hiding. And that would help further the idea that maybe this was real, and the controversy of the film. And so, you know, you also see stuff toward the end of the film, you get appearing rather than the word credits. And you don't get any of the, you know, this is coincidental, no implied reality based on fact thing that always shows up at the end. And so when the director got put on trial, he actually had to ask them all to come out of hiding in order to prove that he didn't really kill the people while he was there and film it. But even once he, you know, unveiled these 4 actors, there was the question of, and this is one of the best, I think, special effects shots in the entire movie, is the girl with the pole through her body.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I always have to, you know, watch the scene really, really carefully to believe that it's one of those that people always throw at me every time I go, no, it's all, I mean, it's all acting except for the animal bit. But you get to that scene, and originally I believed the excuse the director was using was that it was a fake pole behind it or something. But you get not a full 360 shot, but something that at least pans around from the angle so that you can see there's nothing. I mean, it's not
no wires, no cutaways.
It's not
all,
a static,
right.
you know, shot. There's movement there. You can see there's no false background behind her. So in court, he basically, it was kind of like that scene from The Prestige where he's asked to reveal the trick, you know, in court. That's what the director basically had to do because he was on trial for murder.
Yeah.
So I guess he said there was a bicycle seat that she sat on and that she just held the balsa wood piece in her mouth. And oh my God, it's so realistic.
It looks realistic. It looks absolutely realistic.
Yeah, and, you know, they had to show footage of the girl hanging out and having a fun time, you know, after they shot it or whatever. But, fuck, yeah, every time I see it, it makes me think twice. Not enough to actually consider it. I mean, I'll totally take the guy at his word, but, fuck, it's just such a good visual effects shot. So then after he proved he didn't kill any of the actors, he was pursued for animal cruelty. And that's the part where, I mean, if that's the law, that's rightly so. He was pursued for that. But, you know, it's the tortoise. That was the big one. Yeah. Because that scene is so brutal and the tortoise is so large and it's so extensive.
And it moves.
Yeah, God, it fucking moves. And he had to fight this thing. I mean, their sentences were suspended. The filmmakers, he and the scriptwriter and whoever else was drugged through this thing. But he fought it for 4 years just to get the censorship, you know, just to get the board to release the fucking film. And eventually they let him off, partially by saying, you know, that these animals were used for food. Yeah. That the tortoise, for example, they were able to, you know, feed people for 3 days. And the monkey brains, you know, it's a delicacy over there. And so the scenes where you see that, I mean, they're actually eating the monkey brains in those scenes. You actually see the eating besides just killing live, twitchy animals, which is pretty awful in itself.
Well, and the other thing that I've always held when it comes to the slaughtering of all of those animals is that the film, to my understanding, was shot in a place where there weren't any laws.
Right, it's the Amazon. It's the fucking jungle.
And so, I mean, again, you kind of always have the coming back from international waters, where does the jurisdiction begin? Sure. Body on your boat kind of mentality. I don't know if we're, you know what I mean by that? Yeah, yeah. And so it's strange, and I don't know where the law falls on that. Right. But I can at least acknowledge that during the course of, the legality was not pending.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's talked about a lot. You know, it's strange to mention, oh, they used pork parts, and nobody has a problem with killing an animal for... I'm fucking 13 years of vegetarian, so I don't even know what animal pork... What is that, a pig? Yes. Yeah, but I'm not an animal rights person. I guess pointless animal cruelty is pointless, and therefore... Not a good idea, right? Yeah, but I mean, if they weren't filming it, if they just killed and ate a tortoise, then probably no one would care.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But because it was caught on film and it's so horrible...
It's the reality. It becomes more real. It's the same as if they were to videotape executions and show them on TV.
Right.
Death the execution penalty would itself probably not continue.
Sure. And I'm surprised anybody who worked on the movie can eat meat after that. I can't even eat anything after watching Cannibal Holocaust, let alone meat.
I was drinking some energy coffee thing from 7-Eleven.
Right.
That was difficult.
Yeah, don't put things in your mouth while watching Cannibal Holocaust.
Pretend you don't even have a mouth.
So the movie begins with a warning about this. At least the version we got, it begins with a warning that it is in fact the full version and that the distributor doesn't endorse, the things that happen in the film. It's kind of a cop-out, I think, but they excuse themselves as providing historical evidence of a mistake that we can learn from. They're
exploiting the film just as much as the film was exploiting its audience.
Yeah.
A distributor doesn't distribute Cannibal Holocaust because they think it's making a documentation of mistakes of the past.
Right,
they distribute Cannibal Holocaust because they expect that they're going to sell many, many copies of Cannibal Holocaust.
And indeed, I'm sure they did. Although I can't imagine the rewatchability factor is super high.
The rewatchability factor of Cannibal Holocaust comes from showing other people.
Yeah, that's probably true. So there is now a animal cruelty-free version of the movie, and I'm curious how you feel about that.
I absolutely hate that idea. I do not like. It's the same as.
So tell me about that.
For me, it's the same as going to Walmart and buying a once parental advisory CD.
Sure.
Because they edit the shit at Walmart.
Right. Yeah.
And I hate that because that's not the artistic intent. The record there was not put together with all the fucks and goddams taken out.
Right. What would our show be without the fucks and goddams?
It's the artistic intent of the film clearly includes the animals being killed. And here are 2 points I can make about that. One, the director shot it and left it in the film for a reason. Whatever that reason is, does not fucking matter. No one else gets to make that call. The second reason that I think that's absolute bullshit to take it out of the film, there's not a whole lot more to the movie.
I mean, it's only about 4 minutes that's cut out, though.
But the relevance of the film is decimated.
You think so?
By removing what gave the film its notoriety and what gives the film its strength and that punch to the gut you get from watching. Cannibal Holocaust was not made so that people who kind of wanted to watch a movie could feel safe by the end of it. Cannibal Holocaust was made so that people would sit down and watch somebody shoot a pig in the head.
Right. It's that, we noticed that watching the movie, when you see all of the insides of a turtle swimming around in its shell, and then you go to the insides of a human being. I mean, I don't think that last scene of them being chopped up into pieces, in your head, you're remembering back to the turtle and how it actually looks. And now you're looking into the human and thinking that's how it actually looks. And that makes shots like that effective.
Absolutely.
I've never seen the cruelty-free version. I always opt for the
the
more
real movie.
Unrated, extensive, whatever,
the
artistic intent. Yeah, right. But I mean, so if you think that people should have to see the full version, what would you think then about, since then Deodato said that he thinks the animal cruelty stuff himself was a mistake. And I think that's probably because he got a lot of pressure, but that's cynical of me. I don't know. Maybe he really thinks that.
Sure.
Let's pretend he means that 100% sincere. He wishes he could go back and take it out. So he gives a director's cut of the film, and that happens to be the animal cruelty version. What happens then?
That's to me is the same as when a director like George Lucas who decides, my film wasn't as good as it should have been, or any director that goes, my film sucked.
Right.
My first movie was not my best film.
Right.
And, what we should do is we should just go back, recut it. I know what I want to do as a filmmaker now. I feel like once a film has been released, that is the artwork.
So you can't change it for regrets.
Imagine, for example, and this is a hypothetical, so bear with me.
Sure.
Imagine going to some place in Paris, the Louvre. Imagine Da Vinci comes back and goes, Mona Lisa, not so good.
Yeah, no, I know.
Just comes back with a paintbrush and decides, this would be better.
Sure.
It's too late.
Well, and that's definitely different than, say, an architect builds a building and the funding gets cut at the last minute and they don't get to put in a special component. We're talking about something like, Blade Runner, where the studio fucked up the release and only decades later does it finally come out as, let's say, originally intended. I guess it's about the original intentions.
Right.
It's about having the version out there as if all the components would have fallen in line in the beginning, not to cover past regrets.
If you don't think that the film was good enough the first time, don't fuck with the original film. Do it again. Make another movie. I mean, we're going to watch The Big Birdcage, which is the third in a trilogy of the exact same film.
But do you think it's entirely without purpose? I mean, what about the places where Cannibal Holocaust is completely banned because specifically of the animal cruelty?
Well, that gets into whether or not the film was made to create revenue or to pursue some kind of artistic intention. And if the film was made to create revenue, then obviously go the Corman New World Pictures route, chop it up, do whatever, recut it, and get it put out in Denmark because, $50,000.
Sure.
But if the film was made as an artistic piece of work that the director wanted to put together to get a theme out, get a message out, show his kind of vision, and get this whole piece put together, this group of people all collaborating on a piece of art, then don't cut it up just because somebody won't read Huck Finn in school.
Well, so let's get into something the film specifically talks about then. I guess it's only tangentially related, although it seems to be pretty close. They end up burning this footage at the end. They destroy the canisters. So that's actually what the new documentarian inside the film, our porn star, is trying to have them do the whole time. He's saying, if you only saw this fucking footage, you wouldn't want anybody to see it. And they're saying, ratings, put it together. And so he shows them the shocking ending, and they decide, burn the footage. I mean, how do you feel about that? Let's say this is an actual event. Let's say these events really happen. Do we get rid of the footage? I mean, what do we do there?
Well, let's draw a complete, absolute parallel to that documentary about the guy who got eaten by the grizzly bear.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
or do I
I'm
have
not
to give
aware
you
of
back?
this.
So there's this documentary that came out about a guy who went up to Alaska and he was doing a lot of research with grizzly bears, and it was all him alone with a camera, campsites around their feeding areas, following them through the forest. And there was audio tape of him being devoured by a bear.
Yeah.
He left the audio running because he knew that it was going to happen, and him as I don't know, let's say as an artist, let's say as a scientist, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
He left the audio tape running.
Right.
That audio is available. It was in the end of the documentary. It's the end of the story.
Right.
It's if you set out to make a story about what it is when you go down to the jungle, the end of the story is the end of the story, regardless of whether or not you write it in, or whether or not by the end of the film you decide these two characters wouldn't actually fall in love, or these two characters would or would not do this based on how they've been portrayed this whole time. At the end of something like Cannibal Holocaust, the reality of the situation is you don't go there, you get eaten.
Right.
So don't burn the film when the theme, the point of the entire project is nailed into your head when you see the filmmakers mistake.
So when they have this footage compiled at the end, you're saying, don't bother burning it. I mean, it's done. It should be there. It should exist.
Yeah, I absolutely think that.
Yeah, and I guess it's up to whoever wants to watch that to see it.
I always feel like it's nobody is forcing you to watch a film. Where if we forced you to watch Cannibal Holocaust.
Right, sure. But
nobody is forcing you to watch any movie.
It reminds me of, we're going to get really fucking heavy here before we lighten up. When Saddam was hanged.
Yes.
And there was that cell phone video thing that came out. And I kind of feel like I'm glad it came out. I never saw it myself.
I did.
I have no desire to see it. Was that something you kind of looked up, or was it just everywhere and you sort of found it?
I heard about it. I tried to avoid it, but that was when I was still back in school, and I was in a speech class, and we had to do some persuasive blah blah.
Because you and I aren't big death
bullshit
penalty guys.
Yeah, not at all. So
the whole pacifism thing doesn't really work out so well for that.
We had to do some persuasive argument in a speech class that I had, and everybody was doing chocolate ice cream's the best ice cream.
Right.
I like Skittles. So obviously I went up there and I was like, killing Saddam Hussein was wrong.
Sure.
Not the way to go. So for that reason, I had to watch the film. Just to fuel me into being mad that had gone down.
Sure.
So I've seen it. That's the short answer.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's out there because it's reality, and I'm all for more reality, more fucking tape everything, documentation, transparency. So I guess I got to side with, don't burn the footage, which seems to be against what the film wants me to think. Don't watch the footage. Don't watch the footage, don't burn the footage. I like it. So one of the big reasons we wanted to cover this is because we've been kind of name dropping it for a while. The influence of Cannibal Holocaust is seen pretty far and wide, especially in the, I don't want to say in the genre we dabble in, but the genre we dabble in that no one else dabbles in. When we talk about stuff like the Splat Pack, Martyrs specifically, anything Eli Roth.
Sure, the
We
old
talk
school
about-
American Horror stuff.
Yeah, right.
I mean, everything. It's
Found
all
footage.
It's all Herschel Lewis. And
Yeah, right.
It's just the logical next step. It's the extreme next step.
Right.
But it's the same camp.
Yeah, so when you want to go the fun of Herschel Gordon Lewis with the wait, that's a little more fucked up than I was expecting, you bring in the Cannibal Holocaust. And Deodato's been really frank about the movies he thinks has ripped this off. He's talked about Blair Witch as an obvious one.
Yep.
And especially because that movie came out and everyone said, wow, this is so original. It's never been done anywhere, especially Italy. Like, thanks for doing your homework, everybody. But he thinks that scene, in the rain between the tree trunks is specifically one they stole in the movie. Also, the scene when they're lighting huts on fire from Platoon, the Oliver Stone thing. It's a pretty raging inferno.
Yeah,
I guess
it
it was
is.
done with a gas fire or
That's
whatever.
how you do it.
But so it's that found footage stuff. It's the Splat Pack stuff. It's, the start is Blair Witch, but that eventually goes into Cloverfield.
Sure.
And we see
REC.
Right. We see so much of that stuff has its origins somewhere in the ladder back to Cannibal Holocaust. I think Eli Roth is an interesting one because he hides his influences really well. You don't see the visuals as much as you do with something. I mean, Blair Witch in concept, one, but two, even in visuals.
Yeah, sure.
Especially that last scene, the last scene in Cannibal Holocaust where they're kind of being attacked, running around.
Absolutely.
But with Eli Roth, I mean, if you look up any of the behind the scenes stuff for Hostel, or I don't remember if it's Hostel 1 or 2 or both, he's wearing a different Cannibal Holocaust shirt every day of shooting. He's got like a black one and a white one. He must just have a closet full of these things. So he loves it. And I think there's a lot of ideas mixing. Here it's more particularly rape with extreme violence than in Hostel we saw sex with extreme violence, trying to confuse the senses. But we do have a couple scenes, or I guess the one scene specifically where the two documentarians are fucking and the Yanomamo are creepily watching in the background. And then you go right from that to some of the more vicious stuff. Eli Roth actually gave Deodato a cameo in Hostel 2. And I remember reading an interview where Deodato was talking about Hostel was a movie where he's wanted to make a Cannibal Holocaust sequel for a long time. And he thought, no one could stomach it. It's too raw, whatever. And he saw Hostel and he thought, hey, there's a trend here. There's something starting up. An American audience could take this. This film could actually be successful. Maybe I could pitch this. And so it's kind of interesting that Eli makes this thing, being such a huge fan of Cannibal Holocaust, and in turn, the creator of Cannibal Holocaust goes, I should make another one of those. This might actually work. And he got Christine Conrad to actually write up a screenplay, or I think he had a couple ideas he was working on, and they wanted to call it Cannibals. And I guess it got held up in financing, so I don't really know whatever happened to it, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
More fucked up Deodato stuff
that
in the future. So that wasn't so bad, right?
No,
I mean,
that was okay.
the conversation at least wasn't so bad.
No, we managed to steer away from a lot of... we can't talk as bad as what the film does to you.
No, it's
There's
not
nothing we can say that's as bad as what you see on the screen.
Sure. With the mood I'm in right now, it's laughable. I can only look at the movie and laugh at my reaction. Not in a mocking, insincere way, but in a, oh my God, I don't believe I watched that twice this week sort of way.
Right.
What the fuck is wrong with me? So I think we need to give out our special double feature tool here.
Okay.
Do we decide on a URL for this?
I think I'm down with Bagcat.
Okay, so we're going to use Bagcat. All right, here's a problem. Our URL is doublefeatureshow.com. We're talking about the big birdcage right now. You haven't tuned in to the wrong chapter. But we want to get this out there for people who watch Cannibal Holocaust and aren't ready, especially because this is a show where there's not a lot of spoiling going on. Maybe some people haven't seen it yet. They want to try it out. So we need some more fucking donations. Can I preface this? We have doublefeatureshow.com. Somebody's already got doublefeature.com. They want a ton of money. And doublefeatureshow.com kind of blows. If we could just get, $1 billion in donations, we could buy a shorter URL and make better double sleepy nap time
jokes.
Joke URLs. Really, it's just for jokes. We want your money so we can make better jokes. And really, the only kind of jokes I know how to make are about URLs.
Yeah,
because
URL jokes.
That's really all I got.
Pretty much.
That's what I'm bringing. So, Bagcat, that's what we're going with.
Bagcat.
Go to bagcat.doublefeatureshow.com. Now, what this is a buffer. I believe it's a 2-minute buffer for when you watch a fucked up film and you need something to make you happy. And for a long time, when I see these films, something like Requiem for a Dream, Martyrs, of course, I already mentioned.
Martyrs is going to be our poster child for a while.
I mean, it's really the go-to for that.
It doesn't get much heavier than that.
Or I remember when I originally saw the second Hostel, and it was kind of this profound experience for me, and that's what needed to happen on the show. But I'm done with that shit. We need to be able to have constructive conversations
where you don't just want to be jerking it.
Where I don't spend the first 20 minutes figuring out how to come back to reality. So we need a buffer. And I've been looking for buffers everywhere. I've been trying everything. And even a movie like The Big Birdcage, that might be a good buffer, but then we're ruining part of the film while we're all trying to get over Cannibal Holocaust. And then the nudity's taken the wrong way, and nothing's okay. So we have Bad Cat, which is essentially a tiny kitten hidden inside a McDonald's bag. It's amazing. That's really all I have to say.
Okay.
I think people should just go look at it. Look at it. It'll help reset you for the next movie. And anytime there's a movie that's a little difficult on Double Feature, badcat.doublefeatureshow.com.
All right. So now that we've covered where you can get your Happy Meal felines.
Yeah, let's do our part here. Should we just go over some of the best moments first?
Of the movie?
Can we just cover some of let's just relieve people a little bit.
Okay.
Because I mean, I got a laundry list. We could go over the no continuity and night to day scenes. We could go over the person holding the supposedly loose dog's leash on the side of the frame. I think the super fabulous wardens might be a pretty good place to start.
That's one of my favorite things about the film.
I think even better than the super fabulous wardens is
Super Fabulous Sid Haig.
I was just going to say Sid Haig's super gay disguise.
Yeah.
Amazing. Pretty amazing. Or it's some of the worst transitions in exploitation history. Just the style and frequency, especially when Sid Haig is making his magical journey away from... He's not yet making magical journeys.
Right.
But he's making this kind of journey, and there's just a transition. Yeah. A bad transitional effect.
They clearly just shot a bunch of him running through the same area in the woods, and they wanted it to seem like a long
time had passed.
Trek.
Yeah. I think it's probably not the worst transition we've seen on Double Feature, though.
That's probably true.
What was it, one of the Leprechaun movies that had page flips? Do you remember that?
I think
that was a Leprechaun movie. Somewhere in
surprise me at all.
Third to fourth sort of... Oh, my God. That was all... Might have been the fifth one, too. That was fucking bad. Coconut farming, also a great point. And a slippery soap run through the jungle.
Those are all really good
This
moments.
film is a fucking romp. So tell me about this a little bit here.
Okay, so The Big Birdcage is actually the third in kind of a odd trilogy of Pam Grier Women in Cages movies. So these are all produced by New World Pictures, which is Roger Corman's production company. Okay. And like I said before, like I'll say again, we will cover Roger Corman. This is not the place.
It's going to happen someday.
But essentially, what Women in Cages films are is a bunch of chicks in a room and they get wet all the time because of showers. And they're naked, and some of them are lesbians, and they're just trying to get out, and sometimes they end up licking each other's pussy, and it just
happens.
There is no point to the film other than a bunch of hot chicks all stuck in a room.
Yeah, and so here we have, it's always aggressive.
Yeah.
The aggressive women, too. And we have a lot of that. We have aggressive women, and we have our, hot one-liners.
Sure.
There's wet and or mud-covered breasts all the time. I don't know if you were aware of this. We occasionally get labeled with an accusation that we are a male-centric show.
Really?
Or a show that has some... I wouldn't even use the word chauvinism. I won't even entertain that insult because that's so fucking daft to me.
I had no idea.
But yeah, I don't even bother forwarding you these emails. They're, because we talk about breasts and we talk about nudity. So I know you're a little stunned with this.
I don't know.
If I may retort for you, because this is something that it kind of bugs me, but it also
show me a dick.
Me.
I don't give a shit.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's first of all, there aren't dicks in movies. And when they are, they're in Cannibal Holocaust, and we're done with that conversation, so I don't want to go back to that.
The thing about dicks is they're funny looking.
And snip and toss,
yes,
I think is the
exactly.
Other thing. Right. We could get some hot dick in movies, I guess. I don't have a problem with that.
Whatever.
But, I mean, here's the thing, is, it's not just men who enjoy breasts. I happen to know of 2 government workers who are of the female persuasion who, hi girls, who enjoy seeing breasts in movies. And, our producer, another person who, kind of straight, a little straight.
Crooked.
Looking at the producer for some signals here. Show me a sign.
That's the finger.
Loves putting movies on the show with breasts. And so whether it's bisexual women, gay women, or just women who love seeing some boobs, I think that's all right. I don't think
Yeah.
There's a couple uptight, I guess, women, or that they could be dudes who are emailing us saying that they don't love all these breasts all over the place.
Sorry.
So fuck you guys.
Watch a different movie.
So I don't know. Send us some feedback. If you're a girl and you like boobs in movies, doublefeatureshow@gmail.com. Also, if you want to send a nude picture with that email, we haven't asked for those in a while, and I don't think we've gotten any yet for year 3.
That's fine.
Maybe early in year 3, but more would be good. It's not fine. It's not fine by any.
I'm sorry. I'm just.
It's not fine by any stretch of the
I feel really like
imagination.
victimized because I was called something I'm so clearly not.
I know. Isn't that disgusting? I can't believe that.
So, can we get back to the movie?
Yeah, right after I continue asking our listeners for naked pictures.
Go ahead.
The men too, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you said that.
No, didn't cover that yet.
Oh,
men
I
and
just
women,
assume
people
when
who
you
listen
say
to this
naked
show.
pictures, I just assume it's everybody.
All right, cool. Anyways, what were we saying?
So we're talking about women in prison.
Right.
There are 2 big staples in women in prison films.
And one is Pam Grier.
I guess that's one of them.
So maybe there's 3 staples.
Yeah.
So we should go over the other couple movies here before we move into the staples.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't think we hit them. You said there's 3.
There are 3.
Now, I've seen Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS.
Right.
Which is one that sticks out to me because She-Wolf of the SS.
Yep,
And that's
that's definitely a women in prison
that's
film.
funny to me. But that's not one of the 3. What is it? New Line Cinema
New
something?
World.
New World Cinema. Maybe just New
Yep.
World. I
Yeah,
just want to
sure.
add cinema in there. What are the other 2 goddamn movies?
Well, there's The Big Dollhouse, which is Pam Grier's first movie. She was originally not supposed to be involved, but their black chick bailed.
Oh, sure.
Like the day of shooting, and she was
And
the
so you have to
secretary
get-
at the time.
Yeah,
and
right.
the way Corman runs is everybody does everything.
I like how we get angry emails about women, but not about black people. No one's ever accused us for being racist of all the fears we have from handling blaxploitation all the time on the show. That's funny. Anyways, Pam Grier filling in on the first movie.
Right, so she's a prisoner in the first film, The Big Dollhouse.
Big
the second
Dollhouse.
film is Women in Cages, as we...
Beautiful. I saw Women in Cages, too. Loved Women in Cages.
Where Pam Grier is a warden.
Oh, fucking bleak ending, too. to
Yeah,
that
it's
shit.
great.
Oh, man.
And then we have The Big Birdcage.
It's big. Big again.
Just back to the same... Well, you got a same movie. It's exploitation, man.
Right.
You can't deviate, otherwise people won't go back.
Right.
So this film, and I believe The Big Dollhouse, but I don't want to be quoted or emailed about it, was directed by Jack Hill, who also directed Coffee. He directed Foxy Brown.
Beautiful.
He's a big Pam Grier director.
Yeah.
And he's also a big Sid Haig director.
Awesome.
Sid Haig has said that there are 3 directors that he would do anything for, any film at the drop of a hat. Jack Hill, Quentin Tarantino, and the other guy. But in this film, Sid Haig plays possibly my favorite role of his career.
Great.
Honestly, that's not true. But easily the most
It's pretty
enjoyable
fucking true.
film.
It's
easily
really-
the most enjoyable role of his career.
God, and this fucker is skinny, too.
He's tiny.
What happens?
And the thing about Sid Haig is that his facial hair always plays into his characters.
Yeah, sure.
For some reason.
Sure.
And this film is no exception. He starts with a big revolutionary beard.
Yeah.
We're talking like Mexican Revolution, not George Washington on the Delaware Revolution.
Got it.
And he ends up with a super queer, eerily similar to my own mustache.
It is, although it's bigger. It's
It is
more
bigger.
of a Luigi mustache.
It is. It's a Luigi mustache.
Oh, it's huge. It's not as big as the accent, though. He shows up. This is a gay disguise, is what it is. And he shows up with a gay disguise at the end of the movie, or I think it's the end of the movie, but it's actually halfway through the movie. It's
Sure.
the end of the first act.
He shows
is
up
where
as
this is.
Sam S. Smith.
Right, and just lots of gay ensues. I don't even really know how to describe it. I'm not sure what his plan is, I think is where the
has no
confusion
plan.
lies. Because he shows up in a gay disguise, and then he just acts extremely gay and tries to seduce
Sure.
the male wardens, the
Right.
male bodyguards, or what the
Security.
fuck are they? Security, not bodyguards. That wouldn't make any goddamn sense. So it's not as if they need distraction.
Right.
Because they're just fucking around hanging out anyways. It doesn't really help the women escape. He just chooses to because it makes for good exploitation.
Sure. Well, the reality of all women in prison films is that they go on way longer than they'd need to.
Sure.
You have the new fish who will always come in and be the
innocent,
outsider.
wrongly accused.
Exactly.
The other girls
Redhead.
don't like her.
Always a redhead.
Right.
And yeah, nobody likes her. Some people want to get with her. Some people want to get under her. But she always comes in wrongly accused, has a boyfriend on the outside that's surely going to break her out. And once she finds
you mean
out
a Latino boyfriend on the
Exactly.
outside who's surely going to break her out.
And once she finds out he's not going to, she hatches the plan for escape.
Because you have to.
But the thing about the film is there's a good hour and 10 minutes where they're not planning or doing an escape.
Or really much of anything.
Exactly. They're just chatting. There's Soapy Bulldykes chasing Abby from that Exorcist blaxploitation film.
Sure.
They're working on the big bird cage.
What the fuck is the big bird cage, by the way?
The big bird cage is a sugar mill, of course.
Why don't you want to go to the big bird cage?
Because it's hard work.
I guess it's hard work. They're just hanging out cranking wheels.
But did you remember the alternative was mud fights in the step fields?
I guess. Is that worse? I don't know.
I would absolutely opt for a mud fight with Pam Grier in the step fields over grinding a big wheel.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And so mud fights are one of the things you see all the time in women in prison films. You see, sometimes it's the warden. If you have a female warden,
they're usually female wardens. In this, they make the weird decision, totally comical, to have a bunch of gay security.
Yeah, right.
But in reality, it's usually all women. The whole film is women.
You don't even have the Sid Haig character.
Yeah, Sid Haig has a cameo in The Big Dollhouse where he's trying to get raped.
Well, and there's a lot of rape going on in the movies.
Sure, you
whether
gotta get raped.
It's the prison inmates raping each other, or very often the guards raping the women.
Yep.
You have fights in the shower all the time, or the women just pretty much naked all the time.
Yeah, it's as much nudity as you can get at. And the thing that's strange is the tone of the film is really not much different than Cannibal Holocaust.
Right.
But for some reason, it's not uncomfortable. These women they're clearly in peril.
Yeah.
They're in a bad spot. There's
I think it's
no
the music
discomfort.
that makes that tone feel kind of similar. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, the music in Cannibal Holocaust is so down.
Yeah.
But the music in the Big Bird Cage, it's like they don't realize it's a film about breasts.
And I asked you while we were watching it what made the difference between, it being a down drear. Why was it okay to get hard watching the Big Bird Cage?
That is the most vulgar thing you've said on our show in weeks.
Well, answer the question.
Oh, I don't know the answer. It's I don't know. It feels like the intent is more fun.
I think maybe because
it's more willing.
So many women. It's so clearly over the top. There's so clearly so much sexual stuff going on. I mean, Sid Haig aside.
Well, the comedy does lighten it a lot.
Yeah, that's
too,
true. And there's just this general mood of nobody's really in that bad of a spot.
Yeah.
They're kind of pissed off. Oh, they're locked up.
They're annoyed.
Exactly. Nobody's miserable, dying, getting ripped apart.
Well, sometimes they
tortured.
Die.
They do.
There's a lot of odd cruelty that shows up in these movies too.
And a lot of times they do the thing that we talked about with Hostel 2, where it's kind of a sexual twist.
Right.
In the previous two films in the quote trilogy, there's a lot of actual old-timey torture devices where they put naked chicks on the rack.
Oh, sure.
Or something like that. And it's supposed to be, kind of the Hellraiser pain pleasure threshold.
Right. Something I don't understand, but I am aware exists because Hellraiser fans email us all the time.
So the reason I wanted to cover the Big Bird Cage on Double Feature and not all three of them or one of the others is because I feel like the Big Bird Cage is the most entertaining and enjoyable example of women in prison.
Sure.
And that's mostly because of, one, as we said, ad nauseum, Sid Haig.
Right.
But two, the end of the film is so huge.
It is.
Everything's burning. Everyone's shooting everybody. People are dying. People are running at other people with machetes, grenades, coconut water.
Right.
It's all happening all at once. And that usually doesn't happen because the budgets are usually so small.
That's called a climax, which is not something you get in women in prison films.
Not that way.
Right. Thanks for that. Usually you use Pam Grier as your crutch and you force her to make most of the, I was just going to say draw the audience's attention for 2 hours.
Right.
Pam Grier, good at raping the wallets. I think Pam Grier deserves every fucking dollar she's ever banged out of an audience member. Fucking amazing. Especially the scene in the Big Bird Cage where she's talking the other women out of the weapons.
Yep.
She basically faces down a machete using not even kung fu, Michael, but instead just by yelling at the woman until she puts the machete down.
Yep. And then at the end of the film, she gets her machine gun, and that's when she is the badass revolutionary.
Certainly.
And unfortunately, her and Sid Haig meet an untimely demise, embracing in the Coconut River.
Yeah, with a grenade that kind of goes off.
It splashes in their eyes.
They made a point of having one really good action climax, and they're not going to put any other... even really affects, it reminds me of the grenade that goes off earlier in the film. That's kind of a dud.
Yeah.
And the one guy just sits and sort of looks at it.
Where Pam Grier intentionally gets thrown into prison.
Right.
She throws the grenade. Oh, darn. And there's the one guy sitting there going,
What's going to happen over here? What's this grenade thing? And that's really how most of the grenades, when they actually go off, look as well. Especially the one that kills them or splashes them or whatever happens.
Whatever it is.
Because they've spent all their money on the big pivotal fight scene that happens, the burning down of the sheds and the machine guns. And
So the film kind of wraps up in one of the more upbeat notes than a typical women in cages.
They also have these strange downer endings.
Yeah, they do. And the other thing that most of them end with is rape.
Yeah.
That's usually the end of the film. But this one ends with a nice sailing off into the sunset. They're probably up in the mountain fucking somewhere.
Right.
Everybody has a good day.
The film just lies to you.
Yeah,
basically.
it does. It lies to everybody. But I mean, it's strange because it's not so much. The film itself is not so different from Cannibal Holocaust, other than treatment, really.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do the big bird cage on the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, that email address one more time is doublefeatureshow@gmail.com. You can get to the website, doublefeatureshow.com, or Bagcat?
Yes, Bagcat.
Bagcat.doublefeatureshow.com if you need some buffer between your two movies. Some people like some trailers between their Grindhouse experience. Some people like some
popcorn.
Run to the concession stand. We like Bagcat. I mentioned earlier, too, donate.doublefeatureshow.com. The people who donate will be picking out some movies for us. We're going to get two people who donated, pair together their movie selections, and use it as the year-end show. Yep. So that'll be awesome. Donate.doublefeatureshow.com. And then on iTunes, that probably needs some love too. But really, the naked pictures is what I'm going to focus on.
All right, you do that.
This episode of the show.
I agree.
So next time on Double Feature, we have two movies. We're not going to force people to watch old movies. That's right. The theme of the Double Feature.
Yeah, we're tricking you into not watching old movies.
I don't think we have to trick anyone into not. Well, we just did that this week. We don't need to make people watch old movies again.
We're going to do Ed Wood and Shadow of the Vampire.
So what we're secretly doing is
Plan 9 from Outer Space and Nosferatu.
I was going to say every Edward D. Wood Jr. movie up to, I guess they're covering up to Plan 9, right? So Glenn or Glenda and Bride of the Monster and that stuff. And then Nosferatu. I mean, it's really Nosferatu. So see both of those movies. You get the modern takes on old films, and we'll be able to discuss both the old movies that we probably need to talk about anyways, and their modern counterparts and what the fuck's going on there.
Sounds like a good time. Watch more fucking film.
Bye. I seem to be doing all right today.
Yeah, you're doing better.
So part of today's experiment is we got some more hard films to cover. We got to make people watch them. We don't really know how to not bum everybody out. And so that's been the constant experiment that we've been, an answer we've been trying to get to the bottom of. And so, I mean, all right, we can't just do Amelie again to cheer everybody up. Not that that even fucking worked last time.
Right.
Anyways, maybe we could change the order or whatever, but we can't always go, Cannibal Holocaust and Mean Girls, right? That doesn't always work. So today we want to talk about exploitation films. Rather than just throwing something nice in to make everybody feel better, we want to pair up two films that, just fucking suck it up and talk about the two films. A show that would normally work. So we're left with a question then. We have a toss-up. We have to see the two films.
Yep.
If we do the nice one first, then at least you can enjoy the nice one while you're still able to do that. And you're left with an awful feeling at the end.
Right. Tried that. Failed.
Yeah. And so you feel like we gave you that awful feeling, and that sucks. And then you come listen to the show, and you and I are kind of bummed out, or at least I am.
You
I
are.
seem to be. Although Cannibal Holocaust fucked with you a little bit more today.
Yeah, it got me.
It's because I had some preparation, I think. Although we'll get to that. That didn't help me at all. And so then we have the opposite, where we could do the awful film first, and maybe it'll ruin the happy film, which is possible. But if we can somehow get over the hard film, we can let the happy one cheer us up. And so we're experimenting with this new way this time, and I think we have an aid to help people.
Yeah, we do.
Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
As obscure as Little Nemo and as notable as Coraline. This is once again Double Feature. My name is Eric, and I'm here today with film enthusiast Michael Kester.
Hey, I'm really enthusiastic about films. It's good to be here.
So we've got to do a show today, and we're just going to keep trying Double Feature experiments because we get to fucking do one of these every week, and why not try some more experiments?
Today we're doing people getting massacred in the jungle, I guess.
Yeah, all right.
Would be that's one. Another would be another kind of exploitation pairing that we haven't touched on.
Some more exploitation films, two that we somehow haven't covered yet. And those very movies are, of course, Cannibal Holocaust and The Big Birdcage. All right, man, so here's what's going on. We have to do it. Cannibal Holocaust is hard. And I forgot it was hard, and I didn't tell anybody. After we did the show last week, I actually watched Cannibal Holocaust again, and then one more time today.
Yeah.
So I've now officially seen it more times than I will ever.
Yeah.
That's the maximum number I've seen. When I'm on my deathbed and you ask me how many times I've seen Cannibal Holocaust, hopefully my answer will be the same as it is today.
Yeah.
But for some fucking bizarre, perverse reason, I'll probably have to watch it again. It's a hard film. Hard film to watch. You might notice, though, inspired by some news stuff, some media stuff. Have you seen Mondo Kane?
No, I haven't. I've seen a few of the cannibal movies. I saw Mountain of the Cannibal God, which is gross. And I mean, they're all gross.
Right.
But
that's the objective, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen Mondo Kane.
Mondo Kane is less of the cannibal stuff and more of the found footage kind of side of things. It's it reports to be a shocking documentary. And in actuality, most of it was staged or kind of set up. But something that led to be a precursor to Cannibal Holocaust, which in turn inspired a plethora of other films we'll talk about. I think there are, I mentioned that I watched this earlier this week. My idea was I'll see it, it'll get me prepared. And while Cannibal Holocaust, watching it today in studio, had less of an impact because I watched it 5 days ago or whatever,
right?
It still was just as hard to watch as I was seeing it.
Yeah, I believe that.
I think this is one of the films, one of the very few films that not only is the impact not diminished, it somehow gets more fucking difficult every time. Why is that?
I think it's because once you know what's going to happen, you keep telling yourself, it's not that bad. I'm sure I can get through it. It's not going to take that long. They don't actually show them destroying the body of the turtle for more than 30 seconds?
Right.
And then it happens, and it is that bad. You can't get through it, and it takes a long time.
I don't know how you do it, because as we're watching it, I just scream. I'm just, oh my God, there's look at the inside. Why are they doing that? Is when he's speaking with someone else, and I had to use context clues to figure it out. And, you look up interviews and stuff, and unless there's a transcription, you can't just get subtitles on the thing. So they're able to get around a language barrier that I can't even understand when they're speaking English. Beautiful. So the star of this movie is Robert Kerman, who was in Debbie Does Dallas.
Okay.
I mean, the guy, he was in the unrelated Cannibal Ferox, another kind of cannibal exploitation film. Italian, I think, as well.
Probably.
And just a ton of porn films. I mean, maybe hundreds.
Wow.
I don't know his career as extensively as I probably should.
I don't know.
See,
the thing about porn is I don't know if 100 is like par for the course. If 100 is a lot. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. Think about it in the context of how often you have sex, because we're not going to be able to talk about sex for the rest of this segment of the show.
Yeah, we might as well.
So let's do it now.
Might as well do it now.
Thinking about it in the context of how often you had sex, 100 films is once every 3 days.
Well, the robot says 4 times a week.
That's true. You're not talking about that. What's the short films that...
Fucking Machines?
That's the one.
I was talking about Colossus, but Fucking Machines probably says more than 4 times. If you live in the kink.com building, then we've already talked about sex more than we're allowed in Cannibal Holocaust. So I'm afraid I have to cut that off here.
Don't say that.
Oh, this is going to get difficult. So I'm going to go with Ruggero Deodato for the pronunciation of, and I've officially said it once. And now when I just call him the director guy, you'll know who I'm talking about. He was inspired by Mondo Carne and also by news violence, although he doesn't always cop to that. So before I get to that, I haven't decided yet. We're going to do this spontaneously. If I'm going to tell people about that ahead of time or make them listen to the Cannibal Holocaust segment first. There's going to be spoilers. We're going to spoil both Cannibal Holocaust and The Big Birdcage. Having said that, I don't know if there's a lot of spoiling going on here.
No. It's pretty much look at the fucking
I think you're fine.
Cover, poster, whatever the hell you look at.
That's it. Yeah, in fact, there's pivotal scenes on both posters, on both covers. But if you do want to skip one or the other, maybe the Cannibal Holocaust conversation's dragging you down, which, I mean, I'm ready to have a fun time with that, so
Yeah.
I don't know why that would. But if it does, you can skip over to the Big Birdcage, and if you haven't seen that yet and you want to see some other women in prison stuff first, go ahead and skip to the end. We'll tell you what we're doing next time. I'm going to save the nice trick. I don't want to talk about it yet. I want to get into the mood of Cannibal Holocaust. Then we'll talk about the hard film aid, the difficult to watch film aid that we're developing, sort of. So Cannibal Holocaust, good old 1980s exploitation. What kind of exploitation would you call this?
Oh, I would call it probably cannibal exploitation would be the first one that would come to mind.
That's fair. That's fair.
Audience exploitation would be the second one.
Some good old Italian audience cannibalized exploitation.
Mm-hmm.
This is in true Italian fashion, man. This thing is, half the crew is Italian and half is Colombian.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always amazed that they can work around that language barrier.
Yeah.
Just to kind of prepare for the show. I'm watching all these interviews with the director. I can barely pronounce his name. I can't understand a fucking word he's saying at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the only stuff I could ever understand